Am I recording?
Yes. What's up, guys? Cliff and Chandra here from Not Gospel Studios. Chandra, I am so thankful to have you back in the studio with me. Not that I didn't like talking to Jay, who is also awesome, but I missed you. I'm glad to have you back. And we're going to talk about Tom McDonald stuff later.
Yes.
I refuse to do that with Jay.
That's our thing.
I'm a horrible person. No, it is our thing. I didn't even do it by myself. I won't. It's like I just won't.
I know. I've been dying to watch that ghost thing.
I know. We're going to do the thing. And there's another thing we're going to talk about.
We got to talk about the thing.
But we have to talk about the big thing. So.
No, wait. Let's prequel it.
Oh, my goodness.
Did you just fart?
No. The big thing we're going to talk about today is the controversy, the rigmarole in conservative space and conservative media.
But I want people to know we don't know how each other feels about it.
Yes,
we have avoided talking about
We have avoided talking about this thing. It's still spiraling out of control. This is week 2.
Yeah.
Ben Shapiro and Steven Crowder got in a fist fight. Just kidding. That's not true. Misinformation. But it's been this back and forth of legal mumbo jumbo talking about contracts and whatever else and smear campaigns back and forth, and this is personal and it's not personal, and you've got Candace Owens weighing in on it and Jordan Peterson and his daughter weighing in on it, and just the whole thing, and it's spiraled now for 2 weeks. As content creators, as Christian content creators and conservatives, we're conservative in our ideological leanings. I thought we should talk about it. So
yeah. Do you want to do a synopsis of what's going on before we tell each other how we feel about it?
Yes. So if you haven't heard about this, the long and short of it is that the Daily Wire approached Steven Crowder. Once his contract was up with the Blaze, they approached him with a potential contract. It was like a good faith document. And they thought there was going to be a back and forth of, we're going to give him an offer. He's going to come back with a different offer, whatever. The offer was for $50 million. That's important. And he turned it down. And then afterwards, Steven Crowder released a private conversation that he had with one of the execs from Daily Wire Plus, basically kind of in a way to villainize them and sort of say that they are shills for big tech. And there was parts in the contract that he didn't like, parts that he thought weren't good for any independent conservative content providers going forward. And because of that, now it's sort of like a civil war in conservative media space.
Yeah. Everybody's taking sides. Steven's mad. Ben Shapiro's mad. Everybody's mad.
Yeah. It's like one of them, you can't, it's like you can't like both of them anymore. You gotta, and I hate it. I hate it for the conservative media space. I really hate the whole thing.
Really?
Yes. Because we're not the people that do that. The left are the ones that usually vulture and eat each other alive.
Yeah, but people are just people.
Right.
And there's always going to be disagreements.
Well, and I think that is compounded when you put millions of dollars on the line, sure. But I feel like the left is having a heyday with it. They are talking about how wonderful it is.
Now, I've only watched one thing that gave their opinion on the situation that are left people. So I've only seen it from the conservative community, like what they think about it and stuff.
Okay. So we'll
are the left people talking about?
Yes,
maybe
some
the
of them
Young
are.
Turks or
The
something.
Young Turks probably for sure.
Yeah.
Chink or whatever his name is over there. Is that his name? Cheek or Chank or I don't know.
I don't
how
even
to say
know
his name.
But I think that was a racial slur you just said.
I think his name is Chank. Chank.
Okay.
It's CHENK or something like that. Heck, my name could be a racial slur at that point. My name's Cliff. Whatever.
How is your name a racial slur?
How is Chank a racial slur?
Because chink is what you say against Chinese people.
You're a racist.
Well, now you have to bleep all that out. I do want to say something.
Okay.
I'm very surprised because it made more apparent where the financial backing was.
Yes.
Coming from both sides of the issue. And I didn't even know who the Blaze was and that they backed Steven Crowder. That I thought he already owned everything in his own show. I didn't know that, and I didn't know that Ben Shapiro wasn't the main owner. I didn't know there's like 4 owners.
Yeah.
Of
well, maybe
Daily
we
Wire.
should talk about the mechanics of where people get their money for a second. So
yeah.
So Steven Crowder has Mug Club, where you subscribe to Mug Club for exclusive content, and that whatever he made from Mug Club was owned by the Blaze because Steven Crowder was under contract with the Blaze, which means the Blaze said, we're going to pay you X amount of money per year for the length of the contract to make your content. But
I didn't know that was going on at all.
And he made Mug Club during that time. So that money from Mug Club is going to the Blaze, essentially. And I don't know how much money is going there or not, and what those numbers are. That wasn't stated. But when his contract with the Blaze was up, he knew he's not going to make money off YouTube because he's demonetized, like permanently, essentially. But he will make money now off new ventures that he does, and it'll be going to him. It's not going to the Blaze because he's completely independent. But finding out that he was going to be independent, Daily Wire reached out to them because apparently they're all cordial, they're all friendly, they've all defended each other. I think Ben Shapiro represented him during one of his legal battles. They sent him a contract for $50 million over 4 years. I watched them read the entire contract. Start to finish.
I couldn't watch
long.
the whole thing because it was so boring.
I know, but
I watched like 15 minutes
I needed
of it.
to know. I needed to, because to formulate my opinion, you know how it is. I read the Quran before I made assumptions on Islam. I wanted to know. And I've read these contracts before as a signed artist with a label. I've read those contracts. I know the jargon, like, you know, advocators for big tech.
Yeah.
You know. And so now they're in this back and forth where Steven Crowder feels like the only way to go forward with conservative media is his business model.
Yeah.
Because he called him up and said, no, there's a lot of things wrong with the contract that I don't like. The thing he didn't like about the contract, and this is where it gets a little tricky. The main thing Steven Crowder didn't like is in the contract it said that if you are demonetized from YouTube or get strikes against your account to where you lose revenue, because you're getting revenue from that source. Now, keep in mind, Steven Crowder wasn't getting revenue from YouTube, and they knew that. This is like this initial contract. It's like you go there and like, well, these are the things. You redline it and saying, we can't do that, can't do this because of all these reasons. And they go, okay, and they start negotiating. But it basically said, if you lose revenue, and we lose revenue because we're paying you $50 million over 4 years, which if you do the math, it's nuts. $50 million over 4 years, that's somewhere about $1 million a month.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
It's like, $12 million a year. Yeah.
it's like $1 million a month or something like that. It's a lot of money.
But that's also not just for Steven Crowder.
Right, and he has
that's for his team.
A team of 25 people, he said, to make their thing function.
And all their lawyer fees and stuff.
Lawyer fees and everything else. And they had a certain...
Because he gets sued a lot.
They had a certain number of episodes that they had to do all year. They had to do 192 episodes. He had to produce one quarterly like big event, like a live big event thing, and then 1 year-long project. Like this, it's by the end of the year you have a documentary or an hour-and-a-half long Change My Mind series thing, whatever. And it was very detailed, the things they went through, and this is what you have to have. And if you failed to do any of those things, there were deductions. If you failed to do your stuff, deduction.
I feel like we can't go much farther into this without really talking about where we stand on it.
Well, okay. Taking that in mind, I'll cap it. Long and short, the big thing was he said if you're demonetized from YouTube or legacy media or the more content monitoring media, that your contract will be deducted like 25%. Like we're going to stop paying you. According to the contract, they would stop paying you and then they'd have 90 days to figure out with Daily Wire how to get that revenue back. And after that 90 days, once they got it back, that deduction would be removed. They'd start paying you the regular value again because they were going to pay him in monthly installments.
Yeah.
So in essence, if you got demonetized from YouTube or whatever, you're losing 25% of the $1 million a month or whatever it is until you figure out in those 90 days how to get it back. Then all of a sudden, your money comes back. So Steven Crowder presented like money was not the thing he cared about. He didn't care at all about the money. He was defending new and upcoming content providers. He was saying...
Well, that's what he says.
Yeah, that's what he says. He goes, because if they do this deal for everybody, like, aren't we supposed to be fighting YouTube? Shouldn't we?
His motives could be different.
He said, shouldn't we be encouraging them to go to Rumble and to go to the other platforms instead of reinforcing you must be on YouTube and all these other things? So that was his big issue, and he came about it as it's a moral issue, it's a ideology issue, like it's not just numbers.
Yeah.
Daily Wire was like, look, we're running a business and we're paying you $50 million for 4 years.
Yeah.
We need to make money. It's not a charity. So that's kind of where...
And they were like, and we've been friends. The things you're doing is kind of skeezy towards Steven Crowder.
Well...
Where he did record portions of a phone call and stuff.
Oh, yes. So when he recorded portions of the friendly phone call and then released it, that, yes, it did seem kind of premeditated. They were saying, like, why would you call him and record him? You know. So anyway, since then, Steven Crowder has released his website, Stop Big Con, and it's essentially about big conservative becoming a conservative legacy media.
Yeah.
And Daily Wire's position is, why wouldn't you want conservative media becoming legacy media?
Yeah.
Because you want deep pockets to make good content.
Yeah.
And that's where they stand, and it's been a little bit of muckraking back and forth. So, Chandra, knowing all of this, they've been on Tim Pool.
Yeah.
They've been with, like I
Both
said,
sides.
Jordan Peterson, Candace Owens. There's been muckraking now back and forth of all these things. Where do you stand on this?
Okay,
What do you
let's
think?
do a 3, 2, 1 countdown.
Okay.
Okay, well, I do want to say, me and you are both fair, balanced people, so I may see points of both sides,
Yes.
but lean towards one side being the correct side.
Okay, so
Like, just
to
agreeing
be
with
fair,
one side more.
we are going to talk about what we think
Yeah.
is right on both sides. I do think
Yeah.
there's right and wrong on both sides, but I definitely lean in the favor of one or
Okay,
versus
you do?
the other. Yes,
I do
and,
too.
and it probably comes from my background of those contracts and
Oh,
that,
no, don't
that
do
stuff.
it.
You know what I'm
Don't
saying?
do
Like,
it. Yeah.
your experience frames your logic, folks.
Yeah,
All right.
that's true.
So
Okay. Ooh.
wait, so we're just gonna say who's right?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1.
Or who we lean more towards.
Yeah.
Was that the
whose-
countdown?
Whose side we're on? And so we'll go 3, 2, 1. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Okay. 3, 2, 1.
Crowder.
Daily Wire.
Oh! I go to more towards Steven Crowder.
Really?
Yeah. Why did you go more towards Daily Wire?
I will say I'm just as curious.
Especially you having read these predatory contracts in the past. You've been presented them before.
It made perfect sense. The contract to me made perfect sense as a starting point. Because here's
But see,
here's-
to me, a good business should be like, oh, we don't want to be predatory.
well, it's not. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It didn't feel predatory to me at all.
Oh, it did to me.
So watching them read the whole contract. For starters, there's one thing we don't know whether this is fact or not. The Daily Wire swears up and down that he wanted $120 million instead of $50 million for those 4 years. He was wanting $30 million a year flat rate.
Yeah, but I bet he could make that on his own, which I'm in full support of him having his own business.
Well, yeah, which is what he was suggesting.
Yeah.
But he was wanting to make that regardless of whether he made money or not.
Well, he would still be making money just in different ways.
But
He's had that that gun. Is it a gun? Walter gun? Like he always wears that
Walther?
gun harness.
Yeah.
Yes, he's always wearing that because he always has sponsorships. He has money rolling in. It's
also-
just not the
he
traditional
also
YouTube thing.
was not truthful and misrepresented a lot of
Yeah.
things in his video.
Okay, so I kind of felt like Ben Shapiro did that.
See, he misrepresented. He said, "You're not something you're saying. You're saying you're going to own me and own, Louder with Crowder and all this in perpetuity."
Yeah,
Not true.
he tried.
The contract did not say that at all. The contract said the things they paid for, they
Yeah.
owned forever.
Yeah,
So the $50 million they bought and licensed his content for that time, which meant everything he made under their contract for those 4 years, they owned. Everything after that,
Yeah.
they own none of it.
yeah.
So he doesn't. They don't own Louder with Crowder in perpetuity.
Well, if the name of his show, because if you're working under your own personal name,
Yes.
and the name of your show is Louder with Crowder, then Ben Shapiro would own that name, Louder with Crowder.
No, he would. Well,
Yeah.
afterwards the revenue from that name would go back to Steven Crowder.
I think he probably wouldn't be able to use that show's name again. He'd have
could.
to change the name
No,
of
he
his show.
totally could. He totally could. They were licensing the content he provided for those 4 years, according to that contract, and it said we will own that content that you created in perpetuity. And they said, for instance, and he gave a perfect example. Matt Walsh made What Is a Woman, and he says, now when our contract's up with Matt Walsh, say we part ways, we own What Is a Woman. He made it. We paid for it, millions of dollars to make that movie.
Yeah.
We own it. We can use it for whatever. We can make whatisawoman.com if we want and make it and have that on there if we want to. He said, but that doesn't stop Matt Walsh from using What Is a Woman in his content either. Whenever I
Yeah.
made What Is a Woman, yada, yada, whatever. So,
Yeah, but there's somebody who ultimately gets the money from that 10 years from now.
well, but the thing that they own is the content that they paid for during that time.
Yeah.
So think about it. Like he gets tons of Rumble and YouTube subscriptions and all this stuff for partnering with the Daily Wire. Then that contract's up. Then he does his own thing. All the sponsorships and everything, like you just said, he's going to continue to make tons of his own money, and it all
Yeah.
goes to him. And he also got to boost his brand.
But if he promoted What Is a Woman, then it would still be Daily Wire getting the money from that. So he wouldn't do
Afterwards.
that. Yeah.
If they paid for it, yes.
Yeah.
If they paid for something he made then, but
Yeah.
not afterwards. So
And I mean, I'm fine with
that's what
that
I'm saying.
too.
Louder with
Yeah.
Crowder after those 4 years, they get no money off of it.
Yeah.
It's his because they're not paying for it anymore. But if they're paying everything, essentially, like we're giving you $50 million, and that's the part that's sticky to me is you can't say that it's not about the money, in my opinion, as Steven Crowder. Like, I think he virtue signaled.
That's true. Yeah.
You can't say it's not about the money when your big qualm is you're wanting to penalize me money if I get demonetized.
Okay. I do want to say before I go in defense of Steven Crowder,
Yes.
I don't often watch his show because I feel like he's immature and vulgar.
I really enjoy him. I really enjoy. Yeah, that shows. I'm immature and vulgar as well, so I really
mean,
enjoy him.
He's purposely offensive.
He is inflammatory, without a
And
doubt.
not just inflammatory, because Ben Shapiro can be inflammatory. I mean offensive. Like his thumbnails.
Well, he's a comic.
Pouring bleach in eyeballs looking
Yeah,
at Lizzo.
yeah, he's a comic where Ben Shapiro is not.
No, I don't think it's a comic thing. I think he's an arrogant butthole sometimes. And I think he has a lot of this Trump attitude.
Maybe.
Like he has this Trump persona. I'm just gonna say and do whatever
What's
I want.
funny is
'Cause I'm
you're on
smarter
his
than everybody.
camp and you're smearing him, and I'm in the other camp, and I'm like, no, he's great.
No, on a personal level, I don't enjoy his personality, but I do think he's good at his job
Sure. Well, of course
and
he is.
super talented. And I support his right to do the things that he wants to do, and I see his point of view more than I see Ben Shapiro's point of view.
Well, and okay, so the reason, as an independent artist, I feel like it's important for them to have those barriers because if you sign say they signed me with, if I got 20,000 subs or 100,000 subs and I got signed to the Daily Wire and they said you can't be, if you demonetize from YouTube, you're going to lose money. If they didn't have that, say they didn't have that, and they signed me and they guaranteed me $50,000 a week, or no, $50,000 a month, which would be awesome. I'm like, holy crap, that's tons of money for me. Maybe not for Crowder, tons of money for me.
Yeah.
If they guaranteed me that no matter what, and then the next week I just went on there and said, you know what, all this stuff YouTube hates, and just immediately, deliberately got demonetized.
Well, one, that's why I don't think the two companies are a good fit, and so who cares if they work together or not? I don't think they fit together very well.
Yeah. Well, the thing I didn't like about Steven Crowder is the assumption that his business model is the only thing that is right. He's like, you should do it like I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, they kind of are. They're like, what's wrong with making YouTube pay for its competitors? Like literally, he does the same thing. He has this pissed off YouTube segment where he will not. He's like, now in order to get this video on YouTube so you can see it, because he knows a lot of people, anybody who watches him, a lot of them watch him through YouTube and decide to join Mug Club or not via YouTube. So he's like, in order to keep our YouTube channel, I got to post things on Mug Club in the pissed off YouTube segment where they won't let me do it here. But it's smart because you're forcing YouTube to pay for its competitors.
I kind of look at things like I'm looking at the politics of things.
Yes.
It's like Ben Shapiro is like old style cronyism in politics, whereas Ben Shapiro is more like the Tea Party. like.
Well, and I'm like the scripture that says, take from the storehouses of the wicked to give them to the righteous.
Yeah.
That Robin Hood mentality. I'm like, if you and I can make content and explode, and we have to censor ourselves a little bit, but then we can also say, by the way, YouTube sucks, and they're monitoring us, and they're keeping us from saying things, and we use their money, like the Daily Wire's been doing, to fund your other projects. I'm like, that's perfect. They're paying themselves out of business.
See, that's why I just think the business models don't fit together. And so I get that. And you can do business any way you want to do it. But as far as the Ben Shapiro thing, I've gotten aggravated with him over the years because I knew he wasn't saying things that needs to be said on a
He's
deep
staying
level.
too neutral versus what you felt
Not
like
just
you should have
staying
said.
neutral, even leaning liberal on some stuff. And we all know he hangs out with Mark Zuckerberg. Like he has become a part of the big tech industry. And I think that's part of Crowder's thing, saying your personality, you're going way too far on that end.
And I guess I still align with the camp that's like, you want your conservatives to have the deepest pockets possible. And if they got to, and a great way to do that is to take from the pockets of legacy media.
Well, I want Crowder to have his own business, and I want Ben Shapiro.
And I feel like it was disingenuous for Crowder to say that they're not doing that because they are, because they're basically their business model is you don't have to try to push Rumble and BitChute and all the and Odyssey and all these other. You don't have to try and do all that, which is hard for a content provider. I'll be real, young content provider. If you're two people, one person, You're supposed to post everything you do on every social media platform there is, independent. Like, no, I barely use Rumble, not because I don't believe in it, but because I don't want to repost the same stuff over and over and over.
Yeah, but if you did have a team of 25 people, it would seem more reasonable to try and be grabbing more.
But he can't use that to stand behind because he says he's for the independent young content provider. They're not going to have 25 people.
Well, that's another thing. Why? Like, I also feel like Ben Shapiro could, not saying Ben Shapiro's doing this, I'm just looking at potential motives.
Sure.
If there are other young content creators on the up and coming, it would be an easy way to shut them up. To be like, here, let me give you this contract. And then they're locked into them. And then they don't get any money if they don't say the right things. And then now it's not anything to compete with them or take viewerships away from them. They own them now.
But that's not written in the contract though, and that's something that Steven Crowder misrepresented. That the CEO of Daily Wire stated in the contract, this contract does not include Instagram, Twitter, those types of social media because that's too personal. He's like, we absolutely have no control over what Jordan Peterson says on his Twitter, what Michaela Peterson, what Candace Owens. Because as a matter of fact, he goes, it'd be great if I could. And we'd write that in because then he said, and he was a joke. He said, they'd always be right because it'd always be what I want. Like kind of a gag.
Yeah.
But he said, that's too personal of a media. We have no control over what they say on that, and nor should we because that's infringing on free speech.
Yeah, but where you can make the real money and get influence, they own.
Well, because they own it as they should, I think, because they're paid for. If you sign a contract, if I sign a contract for $5 million over the next 4 years, that's going to change my life. They bought me, and they at least bought those platforms that
and then
they're
they
purchasing.
can muzzle you, like if they had those intentions.
And that's where you can rebuttal back, and that's what they were looking for. I feel like, and that's what aggravates me is like if you're Steven Crowder, you could immediately be like, this section here, like let's talk about that. Yeah,
but if me and you were going to work together and you lowballed me, it would make me feel disrespected, and I kind of feel like he came from that end also. I think Steven Crowder highly valued himself, and Ben Shapiro was like, here's what we can offer. And Steven Crowder's like...
he never admitted to wanting $30 million a year. That's the aggravating thing. I've not seen anything where he's admitted
he's trying to make it like it's not about money and stuff. Yeah. But I think he was originally insulted.
Every single person at the Daily Wire has said that was the other offer that came back. He wanted $30 million a year. And he went, when he's broached with that, finds a way to deflect it. He's a very smart guy. Deflects it off of that. It's not about the money or whatever. And hasn't admitted that he wanted $30 million a year.
And I'm fine if he wants $30 million a year.
For them is and to hear the CEO of Daily Wire, he's like, that's a huge investment risk for us because it's like if that goes belly up, if you're wanting $30 million a year, then you better expect the more money the more you want, the more you got to give up. That's facts. You want $30 million a year, you're going to give up even more than's written on that contract, I feel like. And they should be entitled to it because they're paying you $30 million a year. Think about it like this. At that point, they're paying you, what, $2.5 million a month?
Yeah, but that's a whole different level and a whole different... Like when you're talking about someone who does have lawyer fees, who does have a 25-person staff, like it's not like...
It felt like to me he was being unreasonable. And it may be ideologically driven. Maybe he was being unreasonable because he was like, this is a total horrible business model and I'm not going to support it.
Maybe because I know the potential of how much you can make through YouTube and sponsorships and stuff. Like I know David Dobrik, just in merch sales in 3 days made over $2 million. So it's just like that $30 million a year isn't really unattainable.
Well, that's the assumptions we would make. And then the Daily Wire has to know what they can afford to, what they can value him at.
Well, and he's got a proven model to where even not getting money from YouTube, he's still
But he said repeatedly he wasn't sure whether or not Mug Club was actually making revenue. That's what he told him. Because I don't know, because the Blaze never told him the numbers.
Yeah.
I have no idea whether Mug Club's making money or not.
Which, of course, it is.
It probably was. Yeah. Otherwise, Blaze would probably... Well, that's the good question. Who's pushing who out of the contract? Is Blaze done with the contract like, look, Steven, we're good? Or Steven like, I don't want to re-sign with you. I want to move on. If he's like, I don't want to re-sign with you and move on and do my own thing, then it was kind of disingenuous from the beginning to even take the offer from Daily Wire. And here's my thought.
I think, well, to just smart business practices, you're supposed to get as high as offers as you can so you can leverage them with other companies. Like, why would I go with you? I could get $30 million from Ben Shapiro.
Right. Well, and even so, I feel like the approach that he should have taken was the typical approach. 100% of all deals where you red line, you go back and forth. What it felt like to me was, and this is why I sided on the Daily Wire in that respect, is because it literally looks like he was consulted by his legal team. Here's a great way for you to jumpstart your independent process by taking advantage of this situation with people who are at least colleagues, maybe friends, but taking advantage of them. And what I mean by that is exposing and doing journalism and snippets and creating all this controversy. Now he's going to obviously front end load his email list and his followers to stop Big Con. Huge, because they're going to be like, I'm a true conservative. I'm going with him, and they're going to support everything he does. Versus if he tried to quietly and silently, just through YouTube promotion on his own, promote his own independent venture. It really feels like, because he could have said, look, we're not in the same ballpark, and I think you should reconsider this whole situation with these YouTube media things.
That's basically what he's purporting he did.
Right.
Like that he just was like you shouldn't be doing this.
All right, but he could have done that and not tried to smear muck. That's what I'm saying. If his thoughts were very much, I feel like if they were purely driven, like this is how we do good business or whatever, I feel like he wouldn't have tried to smear muck.
Now, I feel double-minded about it.
Okay.
I feel like,
not to say Daily Wire is 100% in the right, because I feel like they should be exploratory. They should be exploratory on those other ventures like Rumble and all that. But they did say when he read the entire contract, he said that's where we thought the redlining would come in, and we would talk to. He'd release another contract. Maybe it would mention Rumble and these other things and whatever, and we would work. He said that never happened. It was just shut down. We got a phone call, and all this happened. Steven Crowder, unprovoked, fired first.
I disagree with that. I feel like the first firing was undervaluing someone and trying to muzzle them and stuff.
I don't think,
it could be seen as if Ben Shapiro was going to acquire him and then shut him down a little bit. And then he wouldn't have the competition. Do you remember when I had my husband's cousin was in a band and he wanted to get in contact with you because you were already in a successful band, and he's like, we've been approached with this contract, and he read it to you or something, and you basically advised him that's not a very good contract. They're taking advantage of you. Like, it feels like it was a very big version of that with Steven Crowder.
Well, it depends on your definition of predatory contracts. Because if you think anything that's attempting to make money off somebody they purchase is predatory, I'm like, come on, guys, get over yourself.
Not make money, but also have the potential to shut them down so that only your voice
See,
is
I
heard.
don't see it as potential to shut them down. Because,
but if that can happen.
Yeah, but I see it as they weren't assuming any control almost over of the content he said. They were saying if you're the outlets for your content.
Yeah.
This is how I look at it and why I'm
if
like.
Mark Zuckerberg doesn't like what you've said, then we can't pay you, is what it sounded like.
But it's more like this. The places where you get your revenue, if they stop giving you revenue, we are losing money as well. So you will also lose money.
Yeah, and that's what Steven's saying. He's like, just because Facebook and YouTube won't give me money, I can make a big enough deal out of things. I'm getting money from other places, so you shouldn't penalize me.
Well, he's assuming that.
Yeah.
He's
that's what he's been doing.
Yeah, that's the assumption is that I'll continue making money, but we don't know how much of his money coming in was just because he was affiliated with the
And
Blaze.
I get that that's all unsure, and I get why they're not good business fit for each other.
Yeah, and again, that's why I feel like I hate the fact that this thing spiraled out to 2 weeks and craziness and all this because it's just an awful look for.
I think it's kind of funny and interesting. It's boring, but also funny and interesting. I don't think it says anything bad about conservatives. I think it just says bad things about how people perform their business.
I just don't want to become part of something where everybody's grandstanding like, oh no, I'm in the virtue signaling of I'm the conservative voice and I'm the blah blah blah.
I think they're both
doing
that.
And I'm like, come on, guys. You know what I mean? Like, don't do that. Like, it's annoying.
Well, and I think it also reveals them for who they are at their hearts and stuff, and it kind of helps you be like, oh, who would I want to watch?
And that's again where I guess I disagree. Is I feel like at the end of the day, Steven revealed that he's greedier than we think.
I thought Ben Shapiro was greedier.
See, I
That's
thought
so funny.
the fact that he won't take a $50 million contract, and that and,
I think you're
and the fact
thinking
that
too
he
little of
says,
what he has the potential to build.
No, what I think is, I have no other way to think about it because he's basically lying and saying it's not about the money. It's absolutely about the money.
I do think it's disingenuous to act like the money's not
It's
involved
about the little
in
guy.
it.
It's like, dude, no, like you don't want the contract because they're going to penalize you money if your show loses money.
Yeah.
That's basically
You kind of
it.
said it backwards, though.
If your content starts losing money, you're going to lose money. And he's like, no, you should lose the money. Literally on the phone with him, he said, no, you should bear the brunt. You should lose all that money if you. And he's like, so you want me to keep paying you $50 million and lose money on you if your content loses money, and you don't lose any money, you still get your guarantee. It's like, it's weird.
Well, then he would have to fall in line with censorship. And that's why he's saying, he's like, I want to be uncensored, earn my money, and still keep growing.
If you like this clip from the Not Gospel Studios YouTube channel, don't forget to share. Click on one of the other links and videos. You can find them here and here, and subscribe. I think it's down here. Tell your friends about us. Tell them that it's healthy, that it's vegan, and all of those things. Keep being awesome, because that's how God made you.